WWDC has come and gone. Here are some highlights and my thoughts. First up, Xcode got some redesign and some new agentic features. First and foremost, you see the conversation is front and center, right in the main window, where it used to be on the sidebar. Never felt quite right. Now it feels more natural if you're used to, the codecs and the Claude codes, so that's cool. Xcode has a bunch of new skills, like a SwiftUI skill, an accessibility skill, working with the new iOS 27 API skills. And all those skills, here Luca from the SwiftUI team tweeted out, can be exported using this terminal command, xcrun agent skills export. So now you can take these markdown files to whatever agentic engineering IDE you choose. Xcode also got new themes. Xcode's always had themes, but they're super powered in a way, and you get a nice new editor, much more customizable. And they're kind of subtle on light mode, and they are, as you can see, not so subtle in dark mode. Not quite sure if I'm sold on this just yet. Also, Edward Sanchez has a nice video out. He is a former designer on the Xcode team, so about a 12-minute video of him walking through the new Xcode design, showing you how to use these themes and actions, various different design choices, and you'll get some interesting tidbits along the way, hearing Edward talk about just the design of Xcode, because he has experience, he was on the team. We also got some new SwiftUI APIs. Swipe actions are no longer reserved just for list, they could be on like a lazy V stack. And also we got a new reorderable API, which is really nice. As you'll see here, nice little drag and drop reorders automatically with minimal code. Async image now caches the images it fetches automatically out of the box, and you can do some extra customization with the cache if you like. The new Siri is finally here. It's kind of like a redo of WWDC 2024. And back in 2024, I was real big on app intents. I was telling you, adopt app intents, go all in. In hindsight, I was a little wrong because this kind of got delayed, but now it's obvious. Siri's here. I've been playing with it. It's legit now. So now is the summer for you to really take the deep dive in app intents to get your apps ready, because now that this is actually working, there's going to be a lot of people using it and expecting your app to work with it. And then the biggest announcement of all, right? This is my favorite thing. Enhanced search in SF symbols. You can now use semantic understanding, as you can see in the example. You just type sound and you get things that are associated with sound. I've been waiting for this. Before, you had to type pretty much exactly what was in one of these strings. So to get a speaker, you'd have to type speaker or wave. And the names aren't always like intuitive in SF symbols, so sometimes it was really hard to find the symbol you want. But now we get some semantic search in SF symbols, finally. And as always, one of my favorite parts about WWDC is there are over 100 sessions you can dive into all the new stuff that was announced to really get into the nitty-gritty details of them. And even though I didn't get a ticket to the official WWDC event, I was out in Cupertino all week for the first time since 2019. It's hard to believe that was 7 years ago. But I was hanging out there with the BitRig team. We did our hackathon at the Y Combinator Mountain View offices. That was awesome to see what kind of crazy apps people could build in just 3 hours. We also did the BitRig Bash, which was awesome to catch up with and meet a lot of new people in the community that, I'm so used to just seeing their Twitter avatars and talking to them on Twitter. It's so cool to finally meet people in person, put names to faces. It's always such an intoxicating time. I really hope I get to go back next year. This episode of Swift News is brought to you by BitRig. And if you missed my announcement, I recently joined the team and I'm pumped to help them build out this product. BitRig is a Mac app that builds native Swift apps with AI. Think like a Codex or a Claude Code, except it's built from the ground up to build high quality, native, premium apps just for Apple platforms. It's got an awesome team behind it and we are shipping rapidly, talking updates every week. For example, we just shipped Select to Edit, where you can tap on an element like a button or a view, tell AI exactly what to change on that element, and the AI handles it for you. So check it out at bitrig.com. There's a lot more to come, and if you want to see more content from me about agentic engineering, iOS development, or BitRig specific tutorials, go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channels. I'll be putting out a lot more content over there. The links are in the description. During WWDC, Apple hosted some group labs on various topics like SwiftUI, artificial intelligence, and there's a big Q&A to go along with these videos. And Anton here has taken that Q&A and put it in written form. So I'm going to share with you a couple of them. There's SwiftUI for beginners, there's just the normal SwiftUI one, and then there's the coding intelligence and AI. Now there's a bunch of questions and answers, so I can't go through and read every single one. It's a lot, but I'm going to highlight a couple just to give you a taste. And as always, the links to everything you see here will be in the GitHub repo. The link to that is also in the description. So the first question a beginner may have, right? I'm confused. Should I use React Native or SwiftUI? Both are incredible, but I think React Native allows me to release on both platforms. Can you introduce me to some of the advantages of what SwiftUI can do? So that's a common question when you're first coming in, because I know new developers, I talk to them a lot. They automatically think, well, I have to have iOS and Android. Why would I not? They don't realize the pitfalls of supporting both platforms and how much extra work that actually is. So the first paragraph talks about how SwiftUI is closely tied to Apple's platforms. You get the liquid glass stuff out of the box, you get that first party integration. Can't argue with that. That can't be undersold. That's a huge thing. And then, cross-platform can look efficient in the beginning. As you get deeper into the project, as the platforms diverge, that initial time savings kind of disappears. And for new developers, that can be a gotcha. And then we'll do one more question in the beginner here. Yeah, in a world of agentic AI, what is the effective way to leverage AI within Xcode and SwiftUI to help ensure that the student is learning? And I think a lot of you can relate to this, because even me learning new APIs and new stuff, I find myself getting lazy and just offloading my thinking to the AI. And I think that is something even seasoned developers struggle with, so I can imagine junior developers struggle with it. But this is a great tidbit. Use AI as a tutor, not as a replacement for understanding. You can ask the agent to explain what it produced. Why did it choose a certain API? What alternatives exist? You can also ask it to quiz you. So using AI as a tutor, not your intern, is a great way to look at it, especially for beginners. All right, we'll go quickly through the other ones. So again, a group lab Q&A on SwiftUI, just normal SwiftUI, not beginner specific. And then the age-old question, right? This is the first question. Is there an architecture like MVC, MVVM, or another pattern that the SwiftUI team expects us to adopt? And if you've been on Twitter lately, the whole MVVM or no MVM debate. If not, you're lucky to not be subject to that. But anyway, there's a big debate on architecture, but no, SwiftUI is designed to be architecture agnostic. And this is the key. This is my stance. I have a preference for architecture, but I also recognize that's my preference. That's not the way to do things. And your preference is going to matter based on your app, your team, your data model. A small app may not need heavy architecture at all, whereas a large app with many contributors, that's going to require a different thing. So I'm beating a dead horse here, but the answer is there is no one size fits all. You can have your preferences, but yeah, I like that they asked this to kind of put that to bed, that there is no definitive answer from the SwiftUI team. And then we'll do one more just to give you an example, kind of the questions. Well, there's anti-patterns, don't rely on Geometry Reader too much, be careful overusing on change, be careful using things in the environment that are constantly updating, because that'll update a lot of things. Why can for each with filtering or if statements become a problem? So what they're saying is, if you put your filtering for each item, where this happens, right? You're putting an if statement or a filter right within the for each. And long story short, that is bad performance-wise. You want to basically filter out your data before you put it into the for each. But that's a little gotcha that can happen. So these are the kind of questions that are asked and answered in the Q&A here on the group lab. Last one, coding intelligence. Here's an example of a question that I had. Can you explain the roles of Core AI, Core ML, and MLX? I don't know about you, but I'm what are those? I've heard those before, but I haven't intimately worked with these frameworks. Now, Core AI is brand new, so no one has. But even me, I was I don't know exactly what these mean. I kind of have an idea. So this is pretty cool to explain it in simple terms from a beginner's perspective. How do you understand them? And basically, there's layers. Think of Apple's machine learning stack as layers. If you're building an LLM-based feature, start with foundation models, and then you have the on-device option for foundation models, or you can go to private cloud compute, or you can actually bring your own model. Core AI is kind of like the successor to Core ML, not exactly, but if you're not in a LLM kind of world, right, for diffusion, image segmentation, or other neural network stuff, I'm saying these words like I know what they mean. Use Core AI. Core ML still remains available, but that's for traditional machine learning like decision trees. And then MLX is the lower level, training models, local AI workflows, and if you want direct control over model execution. So like I said, these concepts were kind of blurry to me, so that cleared it up for me as well. And then there's one more I want to point out here in the intelligence one, and that is about the bringing your own models. Yeah, so the foundation models framework now supports bringing your own LLM provider, right? You're not just stuck with the on-device one. And then now you can do private cloud compute. So you have three options. You have the on-device model, which is extremely limited, but very fast and private and can work offline. Private cloud compute, which is still private, has a larger context window, but requires the internet. Or you can bring your own LLM. So the question here is, how do you work with all three of those in one app? And there's a new API, dynamic profiles. Basically, you can switch between these modalities, right? The on-device model, private cloud compute, or bringing your own LLM. And you can switch between them within your app based on the task. So again, those are just some examples of the Q&A. These are very, very valuable. Again, links are in the GitHub repo, which the link to that is in the description. Go check these out, dive in, read them. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Next up, we have Apple-like from David Smith, and I always enjoy David's musings, if you will. So he's basically talking about what it means to be Apple-like. A recurring theme I've heard is a desire for Apple to return to its roots, go back to what made it great. And this caused him to start thinking, what exactly is Apple-like? What makes Apple Apple? And he's been a developer for 18 years, developed WidgetKit, huge success, many other successful apps as well. But he kind of started to sit down and think, in his opinion, what is Apple like? And he came up with 3 areas to strive for. He talks about be the best, then better. So you want to make things as high quality as possible and consistently strive to making things without cutting corners or being lazy. And I want to stress that line because in the world of AI, speaking from experience, it is very easy to cut corners or be lazy or be like, that's good enough, the AI handled it. So it's very easy to fall into that trap. So be careful not to, because the goal is to be the best in whatever category you are creating, like whatever app you're building. If it's a habit tracker, your goal is to be the best habit tracker in that category. You may never actually get there, right? Because competition is hard, but just having that mindset is helpful. And then you can fall into a trap where, let's say you actually do end up being the best. You can rest on your laurels a little bit and maybe do some things that are better for the bottom line, better for your revenue, even if it makes the user experience a little less. And you kind of start making those choices. He says that's the trap that people can fall into. And he says that's why the second part of that maxim is to not only strive to be the best, but once you get there, just keep working. So be the best and then be better. Next is excellence for everyone. This is accessibility and affordability. And accessibility is basically making your app accessible with voiceover, dynamic type. The more people can use your app, make it accessible for all. But affordability, he has interesting thoughts on that I wanted to share. He says, Apple products are not cheap, but I would argue they are generally affordable. And I know you may be clutching your pearls out there because MacBooks are expensive, iPhones are expensive, but you can't argue, as he says here, as shown by the literal billions of their products which has been sold, right? Something can't be unaffordable, yet sell billions and billions of products. Those things don't add up. So don't confuse being expensive with being exclusive, right? He gives the example of the Hermes watch strap. Okay, that is more exclusive. And the reason I like this and wanted to share it because David even says, so long in his own work, he struggled that a cheap price is a better price. But something he's learned is that if price is what you're optimizing for, your product will inevitably suffer. You want a price which supports the quality. If you feel like you have a high quality app, price it appropriately. Don't race to the bottom on your price. And then be beneficial and brilliant. So this is that whole surprise and delight. Your app should be very beneficial and used all the time by your user, with the main caveat, because there's a huge array of psychologically manipulative ways we can make users use our app or get them addicted to our app. That's not the goal. That's not what he's saying. You want to be insanely beneficial to where someone uses your app a lot, but make sure it's beneficial to the user, not the developer. David says these manipulative things we can do, this increases conversions by 0.8% or increases engagement. Those are beneficial to the developer, but not the user. So be careful not to lean too much in that direction. So I thought this was a really good article on, what is Apple like and what I agree with, in David's opinion, we should be striving for as app developers. And building off of making your app Apple-like, let's talk about the new App Store review guideline changes that really incentivizes you to do that even more now. So here we are in the design section of the app review guidelines. Scroll down to the good old 4.3 spam section. And then now, what do they call it? Article B? It's not number B. I think it's Article B, whatever. But this has been reworked here just a week ago or so as of WWDC. Don't submit apps that are indistinguishable from what's already widely available. Opportunistically creating variants of existing app categories or popular apps degrades discovery, reduces overall app quality, and harms users and developers. Basically, do we need another habit tracker app? Do we need another to-do list app? All these oversaturated categories, just making a copycat, they're not gonna accept it anymore. It says right here, these are well-established categories on the App Store and we will not accept new submissions unless they offer a meaningfully different or improved experience. So you can't just copy an app, maybe make it look a little different and call it a day. Those won't even get approved, but they're going even further. We may remove these apps from the App Store going forward. So even if you were already approved 2 years ago, you can get removed from the App Store if they're not updated, it's kind of neglected, it's not improving, or it does not attract customers. I bet there is a lot of apps that fall into this category. And then it goes on to say, or other kinds of apps like drinking games, fart apps, burp apps. Those are all just low effort stuff. Those won't be added to the App Store. But the big thing here is that they can remove existing apps from the App Store if they're not updated, not improved, or do not attract customers. Now, I'm all for this. I'm not trying to make the App Store exclusionary by any means, but you just can't have all these millions and millions and millions of apps coming online with AI, and you have to raise the bar, in my opinion. Apple has to do that to protect their brand and just the quality of the App Store. And in my opinion, that benefits all of us as developers. I'm not saying restrict the App Store, don't let anybody on. Just make it so your app has to be good to be on the App Store. Like, there needs to be some curation, in my opinion. So I am all for this. Now, this was just announced, so they haven't started enforcing this yet. I'm real curious how they're going to enforce it, and any backlash that happens if people get their apps taken off the App Store. I'm sure there's going to be some ones taken off that shouldn't have been taken off, right? There's going to be some mistakes made. It's probably going to cause some drama. I agree with the overall sentiment. Let's see how they execute it, but let me know what you think. All right, that wraps it up for this episode of Swift News. See you in the next one.